Okay, hi guys. Welcome to our live. So today we are very lucky that we have been joined by the wonderful Kerry from Fresh Focus Therapy. And we thought it would be great to talk to you guys about how you can work on your skills in the saddle, out of the saddle. So things you can do when you're not riding that can really help you improve when you are riding. So Kerry, if we bring you in. Hello, Kerry.
Hi, nice to see you.
And lovely to see you as well. So, Kerry, let's have a brief chat about what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I essentially help riders feel more confident and, as you say, in the saddle. So I trained a few years ago in cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy. And what that means is it combines CBT, which is a very kind of tried and tested therapy approach, which the NHS uses on their day-to-day basis, and hypnotherapy. And if I give you a little explanation about what that means, because I think there's a lot of preconceptions about hypnotherapy that I had as well. Essentially, it allows you to unpick old negative behaviours and decide how you want to respond in the future. And then through hypnotherapy, you get to rehearse and practice them. So when you come to that scenario in real life, your brain knows how to respond in a more productive and positive way. And so we can talk through the applications of that for horse riding.
Brilliant. And do you find that a lot of people like to go down this route? Do you find that it's quite a popular route for riders?
It's I think there's like a definite growing trend in mindset for sport in general. And I think, when you see the Olympics, and a lot of our top dressage riders nowadays have talked about how they've gone through like sports psychology. Our top preventers have done that as well. There's a lot more talked about when it comes to mental health and mindset and how that impacts your performance on the day, particularly in competition. And that's starting to trickle down into kind of the everyday riders. And I think there's definitely some misconceptions that I need to overcome. And that's why I love coming on and chatting to you, because I think people, when I think about hypnotherapy or what I thought about it a few years ago, you think, there's the clock ticking and it's a bit woo-woo and it doesn't really work. And it's a bit of like, it's a bit mysterious, which is all fair and valid. And it's definitely horses for courses. But through what I've learned and a lot of the education that I've done in the market around how hypnotherapy and particularly mindset helps horse riders, I think it's really growing. I think so many people come to me at their total wit's end, and I'd love people to come sooner, but they kind of come to me again. I've tried everything. Now can I try this? But the more I work with clients, the more they talk to their friends and their coaches about how hypnotherapy has literally transformed their riding. The word is spreading, which is really nice. So there's quite a few of us out there, and the more people talking about it and the more people helping riders, the better.
That's brilliant. And that sounds really, really interesting. So I'm just going to quickly say, because I've noticed we've got some people watching live.
Oh.
If any of you want to ask Kerry or me a question, pop it in the comment box and we will answer your question. Doesn't matter what it is or what it's about. We're happy to answer anything. So just pop it in and we will answer it.
And if that's okay, I'd also just add, I think a lot of people come to me when they feel a bit embarrassed or, like I said, at their wit's end. So genuinely any questions are welcome. And I would probably guarantee that I've heard them all before, and you are not alone in feeling silly or I should be able to ride but I can't. Like I have heard it all before, and I've had people get quite emotional about it for no logical reason. So please feel free. This is a safe space, and no judgment here.
Yeah, brilliant. So you were just saying that it'd be great if people came to you before it got to the worst point. Maybe they're starting to feel a little wobble, and rather than it go kind of to a full-on, I don't want to ride, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to go competing. What can people do that would maybe help them want to keep going? Is there any little tips and tricks that if they start to feel a little wobble, obviously it's great to come and talk to a professional.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to wait for an appointment. So in that little meantime, is there anything to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing I get any of my clients to do, which anyone can do as well, is just start to notice. And I'll explain how that little thing actually helps. And I've got another trick as well. So if you start to notice these things, our brain is built by habits and thought habits. So if you think of one thing, I'm a rubbish rider, let's say, and the more you think, oh, I'm a rubbish rider, even if you're saying, I shouldn't be telling myself I'm a rubbish rider, it's reinforcing that point. So what's really important, and sometimes this happens without us even thinking about it, right? Because we're thinking about a million things as we go. As soon as you start to notice those negative thought patterns or those negative ideas, then just become aware of it and just go, oh, I'm doing that thing again. And you'll find the more you notice it, the more you realize maybe you're doing it. And then you go, actually, I could start to interrupt this. So that's one thing around like that negative self-talk. Another really simple trick that that you can do if you are in a state of like anxiety or worry, when you're riding or getting on, or you can feel that kind of adrenaline bubble out, or the butterflies in your stomach, is a really simple exercise called box breathing. And some people might have heard of it. You can simply Google it. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you hold it for 4 seconds. Do that 3 times. Promise you'll feel calmer. And what that's doing, and there's a whole bunch of science behind it, that is telling your body, it's okay, right, we can calm down. Because anxiety comes when your breath, and the indication of anxiety is your breathing gets a bit higher, the butterflies, there's a physical reaction. So if you just start to bring your breath and calm yourself down physically and emotionally, it will kind of help your body settle, and then you can start to think a bit more clearly as well.
Brilliant. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I use box breathing with a lot of my clients because I find it's
Yeah.
really, really good.
Yeah.
It also helps from a biomechanics point. It can really help just reset the body fully.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yes, mentally, but yes, physically as well. So
Absolutely.
brilliant exercise that I think works so, so well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so we've had our first question in, and
Great.
actually it's a question from 2 people, which is, why has my anxiety and worry about what if, why has it got worse since menopause?
Okay. So I'll break it down a little bit. What I would say is, almost all of my clients at the moment seem to be going through perimenopause or menopause, and it seems like such a juncture in women's lives, and the impact is quite significant in their confidence. Um, I have to be really honest. I'm not a menopause expert. I've not experienced it, so I just want to be really transparent on that. But it's certainly an area that I'm looking at into a lot more. The reason it's the what ifs come from your body, and your brain is always trying to protect you. And I think generally as we get older and wiser, we learn good things and bad things. But as we get older, we learn, oh, if my horse goes really fast, I'll fall off, because that might have happened over time. And the more times it happens, the more time your brain subconsciously going, cool, fast, fall, fast, fall. Like it might connect those two things together. So over time, that's where this kind of, build up of worry can come from. When we were kids, we all look back and go, oh, I used to gallop around and not have a care in the world. You didn't have that wisdom. Your brain didn't have that wisdom of consequences. So there's that going on, and that will happen at any time as people kind of move forward and experience life. I think with the menopause, there's such a change in hormones, and a lot of our confidence and emotional regulation comes from our hormones. And because there's such a change, and such a evolving change, they're going up and down every 5 minutes by the sounds of it. And your body is probably in a state of heightened anxiety all the time. And as a result, that, as we talked about with the box breathing, for example, that heightened anxiety, your brain is going to be on overdrive in protective mode. And protective mode is, don't do something, don't put yourself at risk to cause that. And the kind of overthinking and the self-doubt, they are all symptoms of the menopause, and that just spirals into something like horse riding. One thing I would say, like I say, I'm not necessarily an expert in menopause, but where I have looked at helping people is, how do we kind of shake away our expectations of what we used to do and what we do now? Because I think so many of my clients go, oh, I used to be able to jump, 90 centimeters, and now I can not even leave the yard for a hack, for example. Oh, it's so annoying, and beat myself up about it. I think there's two things we need to think about. One is you have evolved and you've changed as a rider. I've just come out of postpartum, so I'm 18 months out of having children, and my desire to do things has massively shifted. If I don't leave the ground ever again, I'm happy. So I think what comes with that is a level of acceptance. Going, I used to jump, but I don't now, and that's okay. I don't want to. I don't want to fall off. I don't want to hurt my back. I don't want to. I can't afford to be on crutches with twin toddlers hanging around. So what I would say is, if you are going through this change, there's the hormonal thing causing the what ifs and the anxiety, and that is your body protecting itself, and emotion and hormonal irregulation. But think about changing your expectations, reevaluating what you want to be doing now moving forward, and it might be quite a seismic shift. And getting okay with that. At the end of the day, we have our horses because we want to enjoy them. And just because you enjoyed something 5 years ago, it doesn't mean you enjoy it today.
I think that's a really good point. People change, your priorities change, your life changes,
Yeah.
Potentially your horse changes,
Yeah.
situations change, maybe even where you have your horse.
Yes.
All of this changes, and it can have a huge impact on how you feel about what you're doing,
Absolutely.
and potentially how your horse feels about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, that's a really important point. Our horse. So we talked a little bit about box breathing and how that brings your kind of central nervous system down. When you are stressed in your brain, there is a physical manifestation of that. It's called the parasympathetic nervous, and that's where we talk about the box breathing, because that goes all the way down your spine. When you're anxious, it's telling your body, oh my God, there's a tiger coming to kill us, in the old caveman times. Heart rate needs to go up, eyes need to dilate, your hormone function reduces, because when you're in in survival mode, there's no need to produce children. You get the squits because you're like, right, let's expend all the food because it's weighing us out. So there's a whole physical manifestation of stress in your brain. And typically in the lives we often live nowadays, and potentially with menopause as well, that sense of anxiety is a continued one, rather than like these peaks that we might have used to see in caveman days. So where we're getting to is, where you're constantly feeling this anxiety, your body is in this complete state of tension, and your horse picks up on that because there is a physical response. My classic example is, if you had a terrible day at work, sometimes you go, I just want to go and ride, and just want to have a really nice, easy, chilled ride to calm me down. I don't know if it's just me, but that's the day my horse decides to become a dragon, because he goes, well, hold on, you've come to me all stressed, and he can feel it. He can feel my heart rate is up, my hands are tense, my body's like this, my whole posture is tense. And I get on him like that because I've got the tension from the day, and I'm, da 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 da. So that's how he responds, because he can physically feel it. And then he becomes a dragon. So there is such a direct impact on your mental state and your physical state, particularly with horses, and they pick up on it. And there's a saying that people may be familiar with, which, what goes on in the brain goes through the rein. It's really, really important for riders to think about that.
Yeah, I think it's really true. How many times do you have a horse that will come into the arena and actually it's really chilled, and
Yes.
maybe a couple of times it's spooked with the rider in the arena, and they've come in and, oh, he's going to spook, and they've gripped down on the reins, and actually, who's spooking? Well, it's the rider, it's not the horse.
Yeah.
Then the horse starts to go, well, that rider's really worried about that, so
Yeah.
maybe I should be a bit worried about that.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and that's it. I do dressage, and the warm-up's always amazing, and then you get into the arena, and then it all goes to pot. And it's because I literally go in, I'm like, right, go down the centre line, smile. And then he goes, well, hold on, you're tense, what do I do? Yeah.
So, let's look at this from two opposite ends of the scale then, Kerry. So, if we've got a rider that's got a real confidence issue, they've really lost their confidence, or they're struggling with their confidence, and maybe not in every area of their riding, but just in some of it.
Yeah.
What sort of things could they get from you to help them?
Yeah. So I think I think first of all, a bit of a safe space and a bit of validation, because I think a lot of clients come to me, like I said, a bit at their wits' end, that they don't know what's going on. And many people have thought about giving up. And I think the thing I talk about with my clients is horse riding is not just a hobby, it's such a lifestyle, it consumes a lot of us. And so giving up is not really an option for many of us, because also we have a horse that we are physically kind of owning and supporting. So giving up isn't really an option, but they are at that point of thinking, where do I turn? And so I think they come to me for a bit of like comfort that, one, they're not the only one that's been in this position, but also there is something that can help them. And I feel really confident in helping my clients in that way. I think what they then start to do is start to understand, like, whilst we feel in control of our emotions, actually what is reality, we feel our emotions are controlling us. And so they can learn, like I said earlier, like just start to notice what's going on, and then they start going, oh, okay, that's going on. And then we give them tools and tricks and experiences and solutions to help overcome that. There's a lot that are tried and tested and typically work with most clients, but how they're used and in which frequency is really kind of where I kind of come in and help with that. But there's lots of things we can do. For some riders, I had a client who had become really fearful of riding, and it got quite a lot. And I said, look, this week, don't ride. And she was like, hold on, I thought your job is to make me ride again. I said, yeah, but I'm giving you permission this week, don't ride. And she was literally like, oh, thank God. Because it just gave her permission that she didn't have to force herself to ride, because she had been forcing herself to ride for 6 months, despite being crippling with anxiety. And then we just built it up slowly. Right, we're going to get you really nice and calm. We're going to just groom, and we're going to, groom him nice and calm and keep that calmness that we'd practiced in our hypnotherapy. And we're going to get to the mountain block, and we're just going to keep that real nice calm. And then when we get to the mountain block, we're just going to go back, put him back in his stable. And that's all we need to do. And then the next week, you just need to put your foot in the stirrup and get on the saddle. It's keeping that calmness. And then we built it up slowly, slowly, slowly. So she learned how to practice that calmness into every phase of the riding. And it's not just the riding, it's the whole part leading up to it. So yeah, we understand like what triggers it. Some people it's the drive to the yard. Some people it's getting on. Some people it's looking at jumps. I had one client, it was the course walk. The course walk would send her into a spin. So everyone is different. So there's different techniques, but how we apply them and when we apply them evolves obviously per client.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? Everything's always going to be on an individual basis. No one thing is going to work for everybody, and it's just everybody's situation is going to be unique.
Mm.
So if we were to look at the other end of the scale, so not somebody that's got a confidence issue, but somebody that would like to improve their performance,
Yeah.
really be able to really focus in and really get in the ring and really just do their absolute best and just be performing at their peak.
Yeah.
How can you help them with that?
Yeah. And again, it's really interesting because it's kind of the same process, but with a different lens on it. So, and again, I work with quite a few people trying to compete and move up to the next level. Again, it's typically understanding what's maybe holding them back. So, and again, sometimes it might be self-doubt. We're very good at kind of knocking ourselves down. So yes, they're competing at a certain level, but they feel they get imposter syndrome. They doubt their ability, they doubt their horse's ability, and they don't embarrass themselves. So we kind of understand what is the underlying cause. And sometimes people come to me and they're like, oh no, everything's fine. And I don't want to find problems if there aren't any. But they go, everything's fine. I'm just not getting to the next level. And again, we spend a lot of time unpicking what that might be. It might be logistics. It might be, it might be a whole range of things, but it might also probably be something around self-doubt. And then we try and understand what's going on there and really empowering them to feel confident in their ability. And, us Brits, we're not very good at boasting, or we're very modest and we like to kind of downplay things. And actually my job's to kind of really help them go, no, I'm really good. And I'm going to like go down the center line. And I'm, again, we're practicing how we want to perform and how we want to compete. And, we're going like, if you're eventing, going around the cross country course. I want to go around having a laugh and having a great time. Oh, well, let's practice that rather than going around fearful. How do we go around and enjoy it? And it's just, like I say, it's trying to understand that thing that is holding them back or blocking in their mind, and giving them the tools to kind of shift that around.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And just finding what works for them again, and something that they can have that they know they've almost got in their pocket as they're going in that arena and think, right, I know what I'm doing. I've had my plan. I've got my plan. I know what my techniques are,
Yes.
and away I go.
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so as a rule of thumb then, and of course we're talking very, very wide here,
Mhm.
if somebody is going to come to you for your help, is this a long-term thing?
Yeah,
Is it
no.
a relatively short-term thing? Is it like an
Yeah.
intense thing? What would they expect?
Yeah, of course. So it's actually a really quick thing, and that's why I quite like it. We're all busy people, we want results. Typically, I would say 4 to 6 sessions, but in all reality, I typically work with clients maybe 3 or 4 sessions. Um, we focus on setting a goal. Like, it's my job to help understand what that is. Understanding the goal and setting the goal is sometimes half the battle, because they're like, oh, I'm just rubbish. Okay, cool. That's good. Where do we want to get to? And it's my job to kind of help unpick what that goal might be. And then we do the sessions. The great thing about hypnotherapy, and that's why it's really unique in the kind of therapies, is because it allows you to practice and rehearse these things in a quicker way. Um, so sorry, I've got a cold and I'm wondering if I'm about to sneeze or not. So apologies.
Bless
Excuse
you.
me. Sorry. So when you're in hypnotherapy, we get to practice things a few times. So we can go, right, we're going to practice the dressage test. We can do that 3 or 4 times, because you're using visualizations, and you can kind of really immerse yourself in that experience through that visualization, which I kind of guide you through. So it means you can speed up that process, because let's say we were just talking, you'd need to then go back to the yard and practice it, and then probably get it wrong, and then you need to go back again and forget something. So it just means you can do it more quickly. So like I say, it tends to be 3 to 4 sessions. What I do as well is any hypnotherapy we do in those sessions, which will happen each one, is I record. So then you have that recording to practice in between. And again, the more you listen to it, the more your brain rehearses the more positive approach. And what's really nice is, let's say in 6 months' time, you might have a blip. You can just re-listen to them and have like a little top up of oh yeah, that's how I wanted to be, and that's how it's going to work. As I say, in those sessions, I kind of guide you through. It's not the same each time. It's me kind of helping shape how we kind of pick away and how we get one step closer to that goal. And it tends to be kind of either weekly or fortnightly. So I'm just finishing up with a client. We did fortnightly. We said, why don't we check in a month, see how you're getting on, because she wanted a bit of time to practice, and then go from there. So yeah, it's really nice and quick. And I'm really lucky that I get reviews every single time and it works. I don't try and leave a client without their outcome, which has been really fortunate we've been able to achieve that.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's really, really good. And, to get results in a relatively quick turnaround, brilliant. I mean, what more do people want?
Yeah, yeah, I know. And what's really nice is the more positive experiences you have, the more you build on that. So it's kind of like what we were saying right at the beginning. The more negative things you think, the more you become aware of the negatives, and then the more they manifest in themselves. What we're trying to do is shift that. So the more times you have a positive experience, the more it goes into your like little positive bank. Oh yeah, that was a good thing. Oh yeah, that was a good thing. And then it builds up, and then it does grow and grow and grow. And then I spent quite a lot of time in our kind of last session or two to think about the toolkits that we've created together. So a lot of my clients think about, oh, these are the things that are in my toolkit that we've practiced, and some things work for some clients. And then they've kind of got them listed out to go, all right, if I ever get stuck, these are the things that I'm going to use and use again.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I mean, I work very much along the same lines, that I think it's really important for a client to have a toolkit that you're obviously not going to be with them the whole time,
Yeah.
and you want them to be able to go off and as confidently and competently as they have been with you,
Yeah.
be able to do it.
Yeah.
So, having that to move forward with, I think is brilliant,
Yeah.
and having that confidence and that real sureness of what they've been doing because the sessions have had clarity to them. I think that's what's really important, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's got to work for them, and part of the CBT is you kind of get a bit of homework in between our sessions, and I might give you one or two things to try out, and you'll come back and you go, actually that didn't sit well with me, or um, okay, well let's try it a different way, or let's try something else, and we just learn what works and what doesn't, and then again that goes into their toolkit.
Yeah, and again, it's about building that uniqueness, isn't it? It's about building that one-to-one plan that is literally for that person that's in
Yes,
front of you.
absolutely.
So, what ways can people get help from you, Kerry?
Yeah, so I've actually got a couple of options. So I do one-to-one sessions, as we've kind of talked about. So people can come to me, and we do kind of, it's all online. So that means I can reach everyone in the UK or anywhere in the world, which is lovely. And it works just as well. Hypnotherapy has been proven to work online because of COVID, and it actually works really well because you don't need to stress about parking or finding me or anything like that. So yeah, it's all done online in this sort of environment. And yeah, they can come to me and have these kind of one-to-one sessions, like I say, 3 or 4 sessions. What I also then found last year was I typically have a lot of the same sort of client challenges. There's a lot of similar themes. And so I've created these pre-recorded audios, and they're just £15. So you can go onto my website, buy an audio download of kind of key hypnotherapy recordings, download them, and start straight away. So if anyone's not sure, or maybe they don't feel like they need enough of like a one-to-one, they're not in that kind of crisis situation, which no one wants to be in. But let's say we just need a little top up, or you are competing and you want a little bit of a boost. There's pre-recorded audios on there. Some are I've just done one around menopause and perimenopause. There's one around competitions. There's ones around how to improve your kind of position and feel like the best rider you can be. And then there's a few others. There's also one around like general anxiety as well, because some of us just have general stresses in our lives. So they're on my website, and £15. And then each one comes with a worksheet. So it's really important to have that supportive kind of processes that I use in our one-to-one sessions. So things like challenging negative thought patterns and thinking about positive ones, or goal setting, anything like that. There's a whole bunch of worksheets that come with each of the recording that you can do in conjunction with those audio downloads.
Brilliant. And actually, that's a really interesting point you've made there of the fact that, actually, we've really focused in on the riding and we've really focused in on the equestrian because, well, that's what we do. But if somebody is maybe not having a confidence issue through their riding,
Yeah.
can they still come to you for a
Yeah,
session? And
absolutely. Absolutely. And again, a lot of people come to me with a riding problem, and then actually we kind of unpick it's more of a general problem, and as I say, some of them have been menopause and emotional hormonal changes. Others are general anxiety, work stress, relationship stress, financial stress. I'm actually just working with some. I work in the corporate world as well, so I work with people who are looking at kind of workplace confidence. But again, it all comes down to personal self-confidence and maybe some anxiety. And just it's just giving you a space to think about how do I want to deal with these scenarios in a more productive way. Um, if you've got a horrible boss or something at work, or you've got a big presentation or a big review, and you're not feeling it, it's just giving you the tools to think, how do I want to behave instead, and how do I get to rehearse and practice that in a way so that I'm equipped to deal with those situations. And it kind of translates the same to horse riding. I also work with other sports people because, again, I do work with horse riders and focus there because that's what I love doing. But it translates to other sports. So I had a tennis player a few years ago. Yeah, all sorts.
yeah, and actually, I tend to find that actually working across the sport industry actually it's a really good tool for making you sometimes think outside of the box for coming
Yeah.
back to riding, isn't it? So
Yeah.
something you
Yeah.
haven't even thought of, suddenly, you know, that little trigger goes off in your head and you go, why haven't I thought of that before?
Yeah. It's interesting though. It's I feel like the horse industry is also quite unique because other sports it's kind of you and a piece of kit. Our piece of kit is a, you know, very large animal with its brain of its own. And so you know, one of the techniques, for example, that we get trained in is decatastrophizing. You know, what's the worst that can happen? Now that would work in a lot of scenarios. It doesn't work that well in the horse scenario because the worst that can happen is there's a lot that can go wrong, right? And so me then highlighting that to someone in a very vulnerable situation, not a great idea.
No.
So we have to be really careful about what we use and when. And I think, you know, as equestrians, we also need to be really aware of that. And I'm not going to shy away from that. It is a dangerous sport, and we need to make sure that we're safe. And that's really a part of my job, is like helping you get to a point where you are safe because you're comfortable, you're relaxed, and therefore your horse is relaxed, and therefore I can't stop things happening around you, but I can put you in a position that you are in control, safe, and comfortable to deal with any situation that comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also having that awareness that you can do all this work and you can have all these plans and you can be on your best game. But as you say, in our sport, we're dealing with a rather large,
Yeah,
living, breathing mind of its own animal
yeah,
that might not want to play ball on that day.
yeah, yeah,
And that's no reflection on you. That's just how it's going to be. And I think that's actually quite a hard thing for riders to come to terms with sometimes, because
yeah,
they tend to put the blame on themselves. And,
yes,
you know, as we well know, quite often it is a rider issue, but
yeah.
sometimes it's not. Sometimes the
I
horse
mean,
just isn't in the zone. It's just not
horses have
today.
horses have hormones as well,
Yeah,
especially mares.
yeah,
You know, they have off days. You don't know how if they're feeling a bit stiff after a big workout the day before. They don't know if they had an argument with their colleague in the field. You know, we don't know all of this. And again, it's how do I equip you to deal with the situation that you're presented with, and you're safe and happy to do so.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's quite interesting, actually, something I'd never really thought of before. And it makes total sense that I actually work with a horse that suffers with migraines.
Mm,
And sometimes he gets weather triggered,
yeah,
and, you know, the same as people do. And
yeah,
sometimes you'll get him out and he'll just be like, you know, just no, I'm
yeah,
just and you can kind of get to the point where you think, well, what's the matter with you today? You know, you are absolutely fine. What's wrong with you today? You know, you look fine,
yeah.
you're moving fine. What It's something I don't think we always compute.
Yeah.
Um,
I had a client, and it kind of goes back to your question around dealing with not a horse related situation. So she came to me, she was having troubles with a new horse. Her last horse that she still owned had basically had this brain injury, and they never really understood what happened, and it's gone out to pasture and you know, retired, but it was her heart horse. Anyway, she's got a new horse, and it just wasn't working, lost all her confidence, and actually the result of it was she was grieving her last horse and grieving the loss of what she'd lost, and hadn't really been able to like move forward and connect with the new horse. The new horse hadn't really done anything wrong, but actually we ended up spending our time not talking about the new horse. Spent our time thinking about processing the grief and processing the loss of what she, you know, she still had the horse but didn't have the horse, and only until we did that could we then move forward and go, right, let's move forward. So it is, again, there are layers to it. Yeah,
it is it's a really tricky thing, and that actually particularly I see quite a lot of. Something happens to a horse, either it has to retire, or sadly somebody loses a horse.
yeah,
They buy a new horse, and
yeah,
one of the worst things I think somebody can do is they try and buy a horse that was almost the horse they had
yeah,
before, and
yes,
then are very confused by the fact that the new horse is not the
the
old
same. I
horse.
know. Yeah,
And the poor new horse hasn't actually really done anything wrong. It's just
yeah,
that it's not the same person.
yeah,
And it's heartbreaking, because you can see the horse thinking, I can't do right for wrong. I don't
yeah,
know what I've done.
no,
And, you know, none of that it's the horse's fault, and the
No.
poor rider is expecting the horse to be what they're used to and what's been really comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, having some help transitioning with things like that is
It's really
just so
important.
invaluable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I had that. I actually had a horse and then I lost him, unfortunately. And he was a chestnut. I was like, I can't buy a chestnut. I'm sure it's the best horse in the world. I just can't have a chestnut because it would be too similar. And I had to get something totally different. But then that came with a whole bunch of problems because I was like, I had the horse I wanted. I've got this stupid, lanky 5-year-old who doesn't know what he's doing. And that took me a year to like learn to overcome that. So it's yeah, that's a lot of processing. And you know, when you have a horse for the first time, you've got to go through every season of the year because they, again, hormonally and weather dependent, they all have their different ways of responding to the nutrients in the ground. Or there's a lot that we don't factor in.
yeah. And I suppose again, we could say that, you know, actually, if we were looking at it from a slightly different angle, people buy a new horse. It's like the beginning of a new relationship. Potentially, this could be a really helpful way to process through, you know, the horse is going to be a bit unsettled. It's moved to new people in a new place.
Yeah.
And then, you know, from there, the person's going to be a bit unsettled because they don't know the horse. The horse is unsettled because they don't know the person. But actually, you know, just a little bit of time to help bring them together. And is that something you think you could really help with as well?
Yeah. Again, it all goes back to what are you trying to achieve? How do you get there? And how do we kind of help coach people to get there? And just making sure, again, you're equipped and you're in the positive mindset to be able to achieve that. Absolutely. And again, you know, with a new horse, there are going to be moments where, you know, if you have a fall or if you have an incident with them, it's just making sure you're kind of mentally equipped to go, okay, that was a one-off, or I'm going to learn from that. And how do I, you know, learn from it? Okay, that was a dangerous situation. I don't want to be in that situation again. Like, we don't want to forget that. But how do we then not let it kind of spiral into like negative downfall? Yeah.
Okay, we've had a couple more questions come in.
Yes.
So we've also had, let's have a look. We've also had here, I need to learn how to control the what if fear as it's stopping me from going out and doing things. How do I do that?
How do I stop the what if fear? I mean, there's lots to unpack. I would start to question the what if. Again, with horse riding, one of the techniques in hypnotherapy is decatastrophizing. What's the worst that can happen? We can't do that because what if can result in your what ifs might be valid. I guess what we need to start doing is going, what ifs, are they true for you and your horse? So I'll take an example from some common themes I've had from some clients. What if my horse bolts when I'm on a hack? And then I'd ask some questions. Well, has he ever bolted on a hack? No. Has he ever indicated that has he ever spooked on a hack? No, he's a quiet cob. Okay, great. And sometimes just someone else asking those questions and then going, no, actually, I don't think that. And I know that's not easy and it's not going to solve the problems, but you go, okay, the facts of the matter are, the facts I've got available to me right now are he's not going to bolt. Okay. Then we need to move on from that. And then we need to think, how do we use this in a positive way? So another technique that I use all the time, and people will find it very uncomfortable and a bit weird. You're going to write the opposite. You're going to write something saying, can you see me okay? Because I've just had an error come up.
Yeah, I can see fine.
You need to create a sentence or a mantra, which is the opposite. My horse is safe on a hack. My horse is the best horse for me. A positive statement, no ifs, no buts, not he's not going to bolt, because that's still negative. My horse and I are going to be confident out on a hack. And what I need you to do is say that as many times as possible out loud. Your brain hears things out loud. It takes in information differently when it hears it out loud to where you think about it. So saying it out loud all the time. Now, the other way to kind of really embed this is to do it when you're doing a current habit with a horse. So with horse riding, we've got loads of habits, something called habit stacking. It's in Atomic Habits book. Lots of people have heard it. It's not a new concept. If you want to build a new habit, you stack it onto an existing one. And the great thing with horses is it's quite a repeatable thing. We put the saddle on, we pull our stirrups down, we check the girth, whatever it might be, you put your gloves on. Every time you do one of those things, you say your positive mantra. So this might work for other kind of questions that are coming in. Self-doubt is another one. I'm a crap rider. My horse would be better off without me, especially if you've got a new horse. I'm not doing enough for my horse. These are all common things that I hear. So create a positive one. I'm the best rider for my horse. I don't need anyone to believe it straight away. And I promise you're not going to believe it straight away because it feels quite uncomfortable to say things so overt because we're not used to doing it. But what I would guarantee you do, and all my clients do it, you create your positive mantra, you stitch it onto an existing habit and say it repeatedly over and over and over again. And in 3 weeks' time, you'll be walking out of that yard hacking, going, and without you thinking it, you'll be going, I'm the best rider. You know, I've got clients who say to me, going, I'm riding around a dressage arena, and all I can hear is Kerry saying, I'm a confident rider. I'm a confident rider, because it's just ingrained. And what we're doing is we're building new neural pathways. Again, a bit of science behind this. We're building those new kind of things you tell yourself. And the more you tell it, I'm really good at something, the more it forgets the old one, the more it forgets the negative stuff that's holding you back, because that's one that's taking up more attention in your brain. And that neural path is going to become stronger and stronger. So just to recap, because it applies to almost every client I see, think about the what if, challenge it, question it. Is it true? Get curious about it. I'm not sure. Write the opposite. Write it in a positive way. Write a positive statement, truly positive, and then attach it to a habit and repeat it out loud as often as possible.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
And really easy to do, right? When you think
Really,
of it like that, really easy to do.
really easy to do. I think there's some worksheets on this on my website, which are all free downloads. So yeah, you can do that, and there's like worksheets working through that. But that is the general approach. You will see any of my clients, you will see them because they will talk to themselves.
I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah, so just add on to it. But it does work. Like I say, I'm happy to go into the science behind it all, but that is one of the techniques.
Brilliant. Okay, next question. So I had a recent riding accident resulting in a fractured clavicle. I'm unsure if this will affect my riding and confidence. Unfortunately, it's now going to be 8 to 10 weeks out of the saddle as I fell over and broke my other wrist. Is there anything to help me now before I return back to riding and competing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry you had that accident. And sorry you're out for 8 to 10 weeks. It's rough to have those sorts of accidents. I guess the bit I want to pull out though from that question is I'm unsure if this will affect my confidence. So I think for me, what I'm reading there and how I'd kind of challenge you in a kind of one-to-one session is, I think that gives me an indication that you've got a choice in the matter. And some of us don't feel we have a choice. But again, what we've just shown about that previous example is we are choosing to come up with a better way of thinking about our riding, and we're kind of forcing it upon our brain. So you can do exactly the same here. I'm choosing to not allow this to affect my confidence. We need to flood your brain with positive things. Yes, you've had the accident. I'm sure you will have reviewed it, analysed it, and understood what's gone wrong. And I'm not going to pretend that you shouldn't be doing that, because that's a totally natural reaction. And it absolutely, your body, it's good to learn from these things. But it can go one of two ways. You can microanalyze everything and show, I did that wrong. He was spooking, and all these negatives. And then the more you think about those negatives, the more they become true, and the more they become ingrained in your kind of neural pathways, as I talked about. So you can choose and go, I'm not going to let this affect me. I'm going to learn from it, but I'm going to keep my confidence. It was an accident. I hope it doesn't happen again. I can't stop if it's going to happen again. But I'm still a great rider. My horse is still fantastic. We're still going to have fun this summer. So get to a point where you choose, I'm going to feel confident. And the next 8 to 10 weeks, again, use the same exercise I've just gone through. Have that positive statement and just keep repeating it. And just make sure that you aren't allowing yourself to dwell on the negatives, which is really hard to do when you're out of the saddle, you've got an injury, you probably feel a bit crummy. But just really kind of make a decision. And it might be next week, it might be in 2 weeks' time. Make a decision. No, I will carry on riding, and I choose to be confident, and give yourselves the tools to do that. And again, there's a bunch of worksheets you can do to help kind of get your mind into gear. Because the one thing I would say is our brains are naturally designed to be negative, unfortunately. They're naturally designed to protect us. So the negatives come so easily. If I ever say, tell me your 3 worst qualities, I could list 20. Tell me your 3 best, I'd struggle to come up with one. And that's just our brains. That's how they are designed, unfortunately. So you need to make a really conscious effort to choose to find those positives and focus on them.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think that's that's really valid, finding the positives. And I have a really strict policy with my clients that at the end of a session, especially at the end of a dressage test, they are asked for 3 things they liked.
Love it.
And 1 thing that if they could do again,
Perfect.
what would it be? And that stops, because you'll get people come out and they are catastrophizing.
Yes.
This went wrong, that went wrong. What went right? Well, nothing. Well, that's not true, is it?
100%.
I have a really strict policy that they're not even allowed to mention the thing that they want to do again
I love
until I've
that.
had my 3 positives out of them.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And again, some of the tools are 3 good things that happened on a ride. Another nice thing to do, like a little habit, is when you're driving home from the yard, assume we're all driving home somewhere, just think about what 3 things that went well. And that could be, I picked his feet out and he stood still. It doesn't have to be monumental. I groomed him and I had a little cuddle, just take in some of those smaller moments, because we're all busy and we rush around. And like I say, you could have had the worst ride ever, but still just find 3, like you've done, 3 little positives.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's worth looking there as well that if we look at performance, we're always looking for marginal gains. Well, marginal gains are tiny, but it's those marginal gains that actually give us
Yes.
big wins. So if you look at it that it doesn't have to be something monumental, like, oh, look at me, I was scared of jumping, but I went out today and I jumped a meter course. It doesn't have to be that monumental for you to be making improvement, right? It can be these marginal gains. And as you say, I picked out his feet and he stood still.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a huge step forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, something that again, there's some worksheets on my website. The goal setting is really good as well, because sometimes I've been on a bit of journey with my horse, actually, and it's funny, I went to an event and so I was like, oh God, you've done this, you've created this great horse. And if you'd said to me 2 years ago I'd be out doing that event, I would have literally laughed in your face. No chance. I couldn't even get him in an arena, let alone out at a competition. And so I think it's really important to kind of take those moments to set the goals. And then part of it is to actually reflect on how far you've come and to see that. And again, those goals might change, but taking those positives. And again, we don't like to be egotistical, but going, actually, God, yeah, I've done really well. And look, these goals, I'm not working with riders who are trying to take over the world. Going out and doing 60 centimeters at your local riding club, brilliant. That might be, getting off the yard might be a huge goal for someone. A lot of my clients, don't leave the yard. And so, this isn't about trying to be like, the next, John Whittaker. This is about you just being able to enjoy your horse in the capacity that you want to.
Yeah. And I mean, we have when I built the app, one of the things I wanted was a goal setting section. But what was really important to me was that it actually kept every goal
Amazing.
that you had completed, so that you could
Amazing.
go back and see everything that you wanted to do and
Lovely.
that you did do.
Amazing.
And also, I really encourage clients to journal, because it's so interesting to go back even 2 months to see what you were writing, to then see how far you've come in 2 months, because I think it's so
Absolutely.
easy to forget
Yeah,
where you've
absolutely.
come from, and we're just focused on where we want to get to next,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, with no recognition of what you've actually already achieved.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really huge step, and I think it really helps with positivity, especially if you are having a bit of a wobble. I think to see, look, just how far you've come.
You and your horse, your horse is still
Mhm,
growing and training, and sometimes
mhm.
we get these, 4 or 5-year-olds and they're babies, they don't, and looking back and going, God, you've matured physically and mentally, like,
Yeah,
and they've grown, and that's really important for us to recognise for them as well.
absolutely. Really important. Okay, next question is, my confidence hits me in a bizarre way. It's more a performance anxiety where I almost shut down in my riding and don't perform nearly as good as I know I can.
Yeah. Really, really, really common. I don't know if the person was here when we were talking about this earlier, classic, you do the warm up and it's amazing. You're training at an amazing level at home and you get into the arena and you shut down. And again, what we talked about earlier, when you say about shut down, it's a really interesting turn of phrase, because it's exactly what your body is doing. When we get into this heightened state of anxiety, the parasympathetic nervous system, which it controls your brain all the way down the spine to every part of your body, shuts down, because it's going, I'm in anxiety, I'm in fight or flight, I'm back in caveman times. I'm going to shut down the whole body, so all I need to do is focus on survival. And it resonates with people in different ways. So some of the questions I'll ask is, do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your tummy? Some people get the squit, some people feel a bit burpy. It physically comes out different ways. Your eyes dilate. So that physical shutting down absolutely happens. What we do a lot of the time in the hypnotherapy is focus on, there's 3 things we look at: thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So thoughts is what you're telling yourself, feelings is how you're emotionally feeling, happy, sad, anxious, and behaving is that kind of physical sense. And a lot of my clients talk about the fetal position. They get into the arena and they kind of hunch over. So we spend a lot of time going, right, I'm going to feel really calm. My legs feel heavy. They feel like they've got lead weights in. And we go around the arena and, your chest out, smiling. And we just practice in hypnotherapy that feeling of like practicing like I'm that amazing rider. We might use thinking about pretending I'm a competitor that I admire, or a friend that I admire, and really kind of manifesting that physical feeling. And we do that over and over again. And and this is how it works. And then they go to ride and they're like, my legs had weights in. I could not for the love of me, because your body's going, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then again, the more you practice it, the more it starts to kind of become muscle memory. So yes, that shutting down is a physical thing, and it's kind of a natural thing that's happening. It's natural but annoying. Your body is shutting down, and what we need to do is shift it and tell it we don't need to shut down, because we're not in this anxious state, we're in a calm, relaxed state, and this is how I want to behave instead. And again, that's something to unpick together.
So they've just added to the comment to say that they don't have the problem in the warm up. It's as
Okay.
soon as the
Yeah.
bell goes and they go down that center line.
Yep. Absolutely
Um,
classic.
yeah.
So another really nice technique that we can use there, and we think sometimes a lot about triggers. So I said earlier, someone had a real challenge when they did the course walk. If your trigger is when the bell goes, we can then think about another way of reacting to when the bell goes, and that might actually, this might sound a bit like when they kind of make people dance like a chicken on stage on TV. It's not kind of like that, but it's a, when you hear the bell goes, we can then stitch and go, I'm going to react. It's going to make me have a massive smile on my face and do a big deep breath. And we can like create that new reaction to that trigger. And so again, and then we can practice in the hypnotherapy and rehearse it. And then your body, when it hears it, it goes, and then again, that's so again, we kind of work out what might work for that individual. But we can use that. It's really helpful for me actually when you have a moment's trigger like a bell ringing, because then we can use that to create a whole new pattern of events that your body will have. So at the moment, the pattern is hear the bell, shut down, and your brain probably goes blank. You probably forget the test, or your horse gets stressed, and you'll have comments like might be tight over the back or something like that. We can just shift that, and then you've got more positive kind of mindset going into it. That's really, really common and really, really fixable, to be honest, with hypnotherapy. I've done it quite a few times.
I really like that, and I love the fact that you're changing the trigger to a positive again.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. I like
It's
that.
actually helpful for me, because if you've got a real moment of trigger, then it's like, cool, we can work with that. A lot of the time actually is the trigger builds up through the day. I'm riding in the evening, or kind of gradually builds and builds, but we kind of have to find that moment. And if you've got a moment's trigger, then it's really helpful for us to flip the switch.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can hypnotherapy help my ADHD brain stay focused and help me progress?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, ADHD is a complex mental illness that we're kind of still learning a lot about. I guess it goes back to what we've talked about so far, is like, what are you trying to achieve? What does that look like for you? So if for you progress is, going out and competing, but doing it with like a quiet mind, again, we can help understand what that looks like, and then help rehearse that and achieve that. Being really focused, and this may have to work alongside any kind of medical professionals that they're working with, and it would work complementary. And what I would say is, if it's outside of my sphere of expertise, I will, be really transparent about that. But if we're looking to give you tools and tips to help you stay focused, stay positive, stay kind of present, whilst riding, yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
Brilliant. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Kerry, how do people get in touch with you, and how do they book their sessions if they want to?
Yeah, look, so I'm on all the socials, and I don't know if you can share them afterwards, but I've got, Fresh Focus Therapy on Facebook, fresh.focus.therapy on Instagram. Just find Fresh Focus Therapy and you'll find me somewhere, and then you can find my website as well. And on my website, you can either book an inquiry session, or just email me and we can arrange it. Or you can also buy the download. So again, if you're not sure and you want to try it, you can do the £15 download and just give it a whirl. If you're unsure, because there's quite a few on there, you can always message me and just say which one, give me a bit of description. I can tell you which one I think would be most suited. With any new client, 15-minute call just to kind of understand what's going on, and I'll tell you roughly, I think this is how many sessions we need. Yes, I can absolutely help you. And if there's something that's outside of that, I'd also be really transparent and say that. I only tend to work with about 3 or 4 clients at a time. So, and I like to do that because I can be really focused on you, and kind of help you, and get you what you need to do, and then help you kind of move on. And it's my job to kind of get you out of therapy as quickly as possible. I don't want to kind of drag this on for anyone. So yeah, you can just get in touch by email, website, anyway, and I'll reply when I get it. And my phone's on there as well. Lots of people WhatsApp me as well, so that's also fine.
Brilliant. Well, Kerry, thank you so much for giving us your time this evening. It's been really interesting, and I'm absolutely, well, I love things like this, so it
Yeah.
fascinates me, and I love the way it, just works in with riders and really just helping them with their performance in the saddle, whether that's competitive performance or, as you say, just actually wanting to go for a hack and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anything that can help riders just enjoy spending time with their horses, enjoying their riding, by me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've absolutely loved just chatting. So I'm really passionate about this, and God, I hate beating my own drum, but I get results, and it's really rewarding. So I love doing it. I hate seeing riders going, oh God, I know I can help you. and that's why I did the downloads, because I just wanted to make it quite accessible for people as well. So I love helping people overcome this nervousness that so many of us face, because it's just not a hobby we can walk away from, and it's just so much emotion, attached to it. So I love helping people get kind of enjoy it again, and I love seeing riders afterwards going, I can enjoy my horse again. It's just incredibly rewarding. So thanks for having me, because I think explaining it really brings it all to life. Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, I've learned a lot tonight,
Great.
which I always love to do anyway.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're gonna have some riders coming to you to
Yeah,
get
I'd
them
love that.
really enjoying themselves back in the saddle and doing what they want to do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're so welcome, and I'm sure we will chat again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to come back for any other Q&As. We can do that.
I'm sure we'll be able to.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good week.
No